Okay, hello there, Valor Finance class, Mrs. Abner's class. So I'm basically going to go through this presentation as if you were here or not here. Some of you that may have missed this, that wanted to see it, maybe you weren't able to attend, maybe you're a parent that wasn't able to make it along with your student. Um, we had some really good exchange at the very beginning of this slide deck. And so I really only made it through about 25% of the slide deck. And so Mrs. Abner and I talked briefly after the class, and she asked if I would go ahead and make a little video just kind of going through it because really it is important to me. As a former educator, it's important to me as a dad, as a Christian, as a steward. It's important to me that we open up the loops really in kind of an appropriate order. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this. Some of it, which I talked in detail in during the class, I probably won't go as detailed in right this minute because I want to respect your time, and you'll be able to go and watch that recording from the actual class itself. Okay, so first off, who am I, right? I'm going to skip number one. Inquiring minds want to know. No more minds want to know who I am. But I'm Jason Ansley. I consider myself a friend of Christ. I consider myself a runway for businesses and opportunities to both take off from as well as land on. I consider myself a tree, somebody that it has deep roots, that has a strong, wide canopy that provides a lot of shade and rest and comfort to people. Ultimately, those roots help provide guidance and move people closer to what it is they want. Okay, so those are some things that I consider about myself. I'm a husband. My wife is kind of the face of our business, and she's been on some of the Valor planning committees. Our son attends Valor there. And then I consider myself a little funny. Maybe not. You may not consider myself funny. It's mostly dad jokes and cerebral humor. Okay. So in my prior life, so to speak, before I was now in my 40s, I was a Christian school educator and administrator. I was also a professional musician. I do have an MBA. I specialized in technology and innovation, which is kind of why I'm so excited and passionate about decentralized finance. I do have half of a PhD. I will never ever finish that because it really went a direction that I have no desire to go. And so, but I have half of it, and had the student loans to show for it. So I'm a business owner. I'm an investor in businesses, and next to being that friend of Christ, I'm a steward. That's really. I love helping Christians and ministries, smaller ministries and smaller projects in particular. I love helping them move closer to what it is they want, move closer to what it is God has for them, for you. So ultimately, we can build the kingdom of Christ here on this earth, right? And so I read an interesting book years ago by Randy Alcorn called Heaven. And it's a big, thick book. It's thicker than the Bible itself, actually. And it's deep. And it really provoked my thinking about what is heaven actually going to be like? What does the Bible actually say it's going to be like? And what if what we are doing here on this earth right now is actually preparing us for what God has for us on the new earth for eternity? And when I started thinking about that, I thought to myself, well, heck, what is it that, in eternity, what is it I actually want to do? Like if I had a vocation or whatever. And so, and that started to begin the deep spiral that I go through sometimes in my thinking. And so I really do want to be the best steward that I can be, not for any accolades or any glory that I can get here on this earth, but really just so that I can help bring glory to God and glory to Christ and help people move closer to that which they want, ultimately, because I believe that is what God has put in your heart. Okay. And I have I have a vision and a mission. Okay. I have, I'll save it. I'll bring it back. Okay. Remind myself to remind me. Okay. I want to share that with you here in just a minute. Okay. So now, as I shared with the class, legal disclaimer here. Okay, guys, I am not a financial advisor. Okay. I did not play one on TV. you should, as an adult, as a parent, you should, as a child, as a student, you should talk to your adult parent. As an adult parent, you should employ the financial advice of somebody that is qualified. I'm just a guy that loves this stuff, that happens to be pretty stinking good at it, and I want to help people implement things like this for their life. But in no way, shape, or form should you take what I say or suggest or the loops that are open. You should not take that as investment advice. You want to talk with your tax and legal and financial people that are legally qualified to do that. So this is only for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. I hope that you are entertained. Okay, so here we go. The aim for today. This started out with a conversation really about 6-7 months ago with Mr. Mosley, and Mrs. Abner, come to find out, was actually listening in on that conversation. She was eavesdropping. I caught you. No, she admitted it. But then I don't know how Mrs. Harden got in the loop on this, but she actually came to me and said, "Hey, would you come speak at a particular class?" And then it turned out, as we started talking about what I could talk about, she goes, "You know what? This would actually be more appropriate for the personal finance class that Mrs. Abner is leading." And so Mrs. Abner and I got together last week and we chatted about it, and God bless her soul, I had the worst hiccups. And so she was 30 minutes of listening to me trying to speak while in between every other word is a hiccup. So God bless you, Mrs. Abner, for pushing through that. And thank the Lord that you guys did not have to put up with hiccups and me today. Okay. So I had really kind of three choices going into today. I could like go deep underground. And in hindsight, I'm super glad I didn't, because we only got a couple steps into what I wanted to share, which is why I'm doing this video for you now. Okay. So we could have gone deep underground, right? I'm perfectly capable of doing that. I have a unique skill set that allows me to fly up high at 30,000 feet, catch vision, and then go deep underground and make it happen and lead teams to do that. But especially after talking to Mrs. Harden and Mrs. Abner, I didn't think that was appropriate. The next one is I could have painted some broad strokes. And I think to some degree I did that a little bit, like, because we kind of camped on one or two of these loops that I wanted to open here today with the students. And I think that was some good exchange. I told the students that in that first video. You probably heard me say that. So I think we tackled this a little bit, but my intent was to come in and just sprinkle some salt, okay? And what does salt do? Well, it preserves, it adds flavor, it adds a little, pizzazz to stuff. And I wanted to really sprinkle some salt, and I wanted to open some loops, and specifically, I wanted to help the students gain some clarity. I wanted to help you as parents gain clarity, and I wanted to show you how to attain certainty. And honestly, we got right here. We started to touch gaining some clarity and how to actually go about doing that. And I just didn't get to everything else. At the very end, we did ask a few different questions that I was able to answer. Honestly, the students had really, really good questions. And the general answer is, it depends. And the other answer was, like, there's some nuance and some context there that I just didn't have time to dive into on a one-to-one scenario. And so I'm going to say this at the beginning of this video in case I've already lost you. But if you want to chat with me afterwards about this, watch the video from the class, watch this video to all the way through the end. And then if you want to ask some case-specific questions, so to speak, I'd be happy to facilitate a conversation with you, a Zoom. If you're a student, even if you are 18 and you're in Valor, I do want to make sure that your parent is present, so that Valor has that protection, you have that protection, and I have that protection, okay? So if you and your parent want to jam and chat about some stuff and gain some more clarity and really understand the certainty aspect after watching these two videos, I'm all good to do that, okay? I'll put up a calendar link on my website and go from there, okay? So, like I just said, I chose the SALT approach. I wanted to open up some loops. I wanted to make you think, okay? I did try to move quickly, but there's just so much to cover. My wife says it's my Magnus Opus. About 3 or 4 months ago, I sat down. I was just inspired. God kind of really just gave me this vision for this document that my wife affectionately calls my Magnus Opus. And it was within a weekend, right? I probably spent 4 or 5 hours Friday night, 7 or 8 hours Saturday, a couple hours Sunday, probably bled over a little bit into Monday. And I basically took hundreds of hours of video and tens of thousands of words from various resources and communities that I'm a part of and transpose them and really synthesize them down into what my wife calls my Magnus Opus. And that is really this document here, the base case and build overview. And I'll show you how to get that here at the end. But you can go through and it actually dives deep into the stuff I lead up to here. Okay, I'm intentionally kind of leading you on, just not leading you on, but I'm intentionally not closing that loop yet because I have to make sure you're ready. Okay, so because your thinking is going to be expanded, you're going to have some loops that are going to get opened. And the last thing I wanted to do, which again started to touch upon just a little bit, is I wanted to give you some practical tools, right? I did not just want this to be a lecture. I didn't want to just be, this bald guy up here with a beard, just talking for 45 minutes. I probably talked for 38 minutes, but I wanted to give you some practical stuff. And we started to talk about the solvable problems, solvable problem. I showed you a spreadsheet, but I really didn't have time to dive deep into that. Again, this document over here, if you gain access to that, it will actually link that spreadsheet that I went over. And that is this KT document right here. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I gave you some resources because again, the loops are going to be open. And if you try to close these loops immediately, your brain's going to hurt. Okay, and there might be some emotional damage. And I don't want any of that to happen. Okay, so I chose the SALT approach. And this came with a fair warning. And I did cover this in the video. Whenever somebody gives you the SALT approach, when they entrust you with such a versatile seasoning as salt, it comes with a responsibility, okay? You're going to have to let things percolate, okay? And specifically, we started to alliterate some of that, and we tried to get into the numerate with the spreadsheet. We didn't quite get there, okay? So you're going to have to percolate on your own here, this stuff that I'm showing you. You're going to explore it on your own. You're going to enlist the help of your parents, and you and your parents get together and enlist the help of somebody like myself. I'm not the only person that knows how to do this. You can do some research and find some other people out there that can help you through this. Again, maybe you have your own financial advisor. Transparently, today, at this point in time in 2022, most financial advisors and most CPAs are just barely scratching the surface of this, if they even know about it. And so while you need to go speak to those people legally, you might find yourself in a position where you're doing a lot of educating because they have not had anybody that have entrusted the SALT to them yet, or they've been so busy with their other priorities of filing taxes and helping with trust and setting up legal documents and all that kind of stuff that they just haven't dived into it yet. And rightfully so, right? Like, we are at a point in time where arguably it's the wild, wild west here in decentralized finance world. And regulation is definitely coming. We saw, we talked a little bit about this in at the very, very end. I believe it was Mrs. Bamunde mentioned something about 1929, the stock market crash, and we had another one in the 80s. And then most recently we had in the decentralized world, in cryptocurrency specifically, we had the depegging of a stable coin from the dollar, and it's lost its peg. It's supposed to stay at $1, and it got, I believe, all the way down to 24 cents or 58 cents, something like that off the top of my head. And there's backstory to that, there's speculation to that, etc. But that is going to usher in some regulation, and regulation in this case I think is really, really, really good. And the reason I believe regulation to be good is because it is going to give permission to the Apples of the world. It is going to give permission to the Microsofts of the world. It is going to give permission to these Fortune 500 companies and these hedge funds that have billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in Apple's case, of investable assets that they cannot yet put into decentralized finance because they would potentially be violating their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. Okay? So regulation is coming. I'm not normally a big regulation guy. So I think there needs to be prudence with whatever regulation comes. It can go overboard, obviously. But I don't think regulation is anything to be afraid of. Okay. So, you know, I got a little bit on a bunny trail, but the next step after we percolate, specifically literate and enumerate, is we need to echolate. And then the fourth thing is to take action. Okay. So that was the fair warning. So if there's one thing I want you to walk away with today after having watched the classroom video as well as this video here, is I want you to take just one or two aspects that we talk about. I think I have 5 or 6 loops that I attempt to open here for you. Just take one or two of them. Don't maybe even take a whole loop. Just take one small piece of a loop and go and explore it further. Okay? And you can explore it using this process. And in fact, this process may be the thing you need to go explore more, because you need to learn about the 3 filters, okay? And this is adapted from Filters Against Folly by Garrett Hardin, okay? So you can go look that up on the internet, read the literature, the books around it, etc., watch YouTubes, but 3 filters, and percolates my own variation of it. But it starts with literating, right? We often speak words. Right now I'm speaking words. I'm saying, use decentralized finance to build Christ's kingdom. That's literation. That's literate. Okay, Mr. Ansley, what about the numbers? Like, what do the numbers show? Great, I've got numbers as well to back that up. Okay, cool. Well, okay, Mr. Ansley, then what? Like, so I hear what you're saying about using decentralized finance to build Christ's kingdom. I see the numbers. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I want to be a part of that for whatever reason. Or no, I'm staying away from that. Don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Whatever your choice is. Well, okay, so if you make the decision to participate, then what? What does that mean? If you take the decision to not participate, what does that mean? Is that a long-term decision? Is that just a decision until you have more information? What's the consequences of that? If you don't get involved in decentralized finance right now, in 5 years when it's mainstream, or in 10 years when it's mainstream, then what? What does that mean? Are you going to be behind? Are you okay being behind? Again, ask then what? What's the second, third, and fourth order of consequences of whatever decision I make based upon the numbers and based upon the words? Okay? So if you will take ownership of that, if you will take ownership of this process to explore this further on your own, then honestly, I will have accomplished my goal. And I already know that I've accomplished that because I have 2 or 3 students that are already like, hey, I want to talk to you afterwards. Okay? So I already got that going on. So that's awesome. My goal was accomplished even though I didn't make it through the document. Okay? So now there's a hidden step. Hidden 4th step. You have to make a decision and take action. Information exists for the sole purpose of informing our behavior. That means taking action, okay? We can decide to do nothing, or we can decide to do something. To what degree am I doing something? To what degree am I not doing something, okay? So you have to make that decision. That is a responsibility. When somebody hands you that salt, you have to percolate, meaning literate, enumerate, and then echolate, expand upon that. And then once you've done that, you can go, okay, what do I now do? What behavior is this now going to inform? Again, am I going to wait 5 years to get involved or not wait 5 years to get involved? Okay? So, again, you can decide to do nothing. It's totally fine. If you don't, you can take, let me just read it here. Information exists for the sole purpose of informing behavior. If you do nothing with this, if you don't employ the 3 filters, like I just said, then you risk not being as effective of a steward as you can be. That's my opinion. I don't have data to back that up other than my own data and data of friends, so to speak, specifically to the decentralized finance world. And I also come from a frame of mind that I'm a steward of everything, right? I'm a steward, we'll get to in just a minute, the wheel of life. I'm a steward not only in my finances, but in my relationships, in my social engagements, in my self-development, in my physical health. I'm a steward. This is a bodily temple of Christ. He's given me this mind to do things. And I risk not being an effective steward of that if I don't at least employ those 3 filters, okay? So Again, you can decide to do nothing. That's totally fine. It's a preference based decision. Okay, but you can't not do anything. You can decide to do nothing, but you can't not do anything. Okay, you have to make a choice to do something, and you have to at least percolate, and you have to at least echolate. Okay, that might have lost a lot of you right there, and I get that. I know there were some middle schoolers on this and some ninth graders on this chat or this classroom here today. I get that might be a bit beyond where you're at, and that's okay. Like, that's just a human development thing. It's just a educational development, a personal awareness development thing. But again, I wouldn't be a good steward, which is my aim. I wouldn't be a good steward if I at least didn't let you know that this existed like this, okay? That let you know that you got to percolate, you got to echolate, okay? So that was my agreement, okay? So if you agree to all that, please continue watching. If you don't agree to dig a little bit deeper, to take one or two things and go research it on your own. If you're like, yeah, I'm not even going to do that, I just please stop watching right now, because you're only going to get frustrated the more I talk, and I'll only get frustrated if I hear about it later. Does that make sense? Now, that doesn't mean you can't come back at a later date and watch this. Please feel free to do that. Just right at this moment, I need you to make that agreement and take ownership to be responsible with that salt, like I talked about earlier, okay? Alrighty, so moving forward. Open loop number 1. Open loop number 1. Rich or wealthy? I asked the class, how many of them want to be rich? The cameras were off here, or the video screens were off here to the side, so it was hard for me to really tell how many of them, but quite a few of them raised their hand, right? Well, let's just call it 50-50, right? Some of them started to talk about, well, what does it really mean to be rich? Very good question, okay? So go back and make sure that you watch that exchange. We had some really, really good exchange on that video from the classroom, okay? And then I asked, who wants to be wealthy? Well, that presupposes that there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. And I explain that as rich is just the focus on the financial aspect. It's just the focus of the money. And so many people, even Christians, so many Christians just focus on the money aspect. And believe me, money and time are in every single equation of business, life, and our impact, okay? So we teach that in our primary business. Like, I am well aware that money and time are the two constants. Those are in every single equation, okay? You cannot ignore it. But money is not all there is. And there's a fine line, obviously, in the Bible of, for the love of money is the root or is the cause of all kinds of evil, right? Not just evil itself, but all kinds of evil, right? So, and it's the love of money. And so what I'm clear to communicate is that I love working with money. It's not about the money for me. It's about the ability that money gives me as a tool to become wealthy. And what do I mean by wealthy? How do I define wealth? Wealth to me is being resilient across this wheel of life. Okay? Resilient being defined as the ability to bounce back from, as the ability to have an upward trajectory, to be constantly moving forward, constantly growing, to be a shade tree for other people, to be a runway for other people, to have deep roots for other people. That's how I define resilience. Okay? Wealthy is being resilient across our career or our businesses, across the financial aspect, which, yes, is the money aspect, across my spiritual growth and development, across my physical, right? The reality is, you can tell looking at me right here, and I know a lot of your parents in Valor, some of them may be health coaches. Some of you may have gym memberships. You look at me and you go, yeah, he's not being as good of a steward as he could be in his physical body, right? I've got some issues going on. I've got things I've got to work on. I'm not as resilient as I want to be or need to be in this area, okay? So I'm not quite wealthy in that area for myself, but it's something I'm working on. Okay, intellectual, our personal development, the Bible is clear that, that to cast your thoughts upon the things that are good and whole, and to renew your mind with those things. So our heart and our mind and our wisdom, all that stuff beyond the spiritual aspect of it, having the biblical worldview, but just growing and constantly learning, choosing to not say, oh, I'm just only going to live in the centralized finance world until I am forced to. I'm never ever going to get a cell phone because these things, they're not going to take off. Or, the internet, that's a bunch of hogwash. I'm just going to sit here and read my print newspaper, right? Like being stuck in that mindset. And while I gave technology examples just because I live in that world, but being stuck in that mindset, not allowing my mind to grow and not learning, oh, there's this new thing called the internet. Oh, there's this new thing called the cell phone. Oh, there's this new thing called cars. What if we were all still riding horses and buggies around, right? So we have to be willing to grow. We have to be willing to be resilient. My family, right? Like, I've got a son, I've got a wife, we've got a little dog tur, our little fur baby. I've got extended family. We've got aunts and uncles and grandparents, and I got parents, and my wife's got parents, and the list goes on. And so how am I resilient in my family dynamics? Am I resilient in my family relationships? What about my friends, my social sphere? Does my life revolve around Fortnite? Or does my life revolve around making some sort of impact in the community, adding value, creating value? When I'm with my friends, am I the guiding light that's always pointing them to Christ? Or am I the one that is hanging out in the back, just going along with the crowd? Right? Like, do I have resilience in my social sphere? That is wealth to me. And so that's the loop that I want to open for the students here. And we had some good exchange and good debate about this. Healthy debate in a good way. Not that anybody was right or wrong, but just good intellectual debate about it, right? So encourage you to go and watch that. Students, I would encourage you to study this Wheel of Life. Rate yourself. Scale of 1 to 10, could be 1 to 5, 1 to 3, whatever. Your career right now is to be a Valor student. Some of you maybe are seniors or juniors and you're about ready to go into the adult world, and maybe you're thinking about college and maybe you're not. Maybe you want a business, whatever. Rate yourself. Where are you? Are you moving closer towards or farther away from where you want to be in your career? Are you moving closer towards where you want to be in your financial status? And I hate that word status. I don't mean like status, like you're comparing yourself to your friend or to me or whatever, but just stage is a better word, okay? Your financial stage, your spiritual stage, like where are you? Rate yourself, and are you moving closer to where you want to be, or are you moving further away? And we talked a little bit about that in the class, and I'll touch upon that further in a minute, but I do want to move forward here for you. I will end this particular slide with just saying that a lot of times people are chasing money. They're like, okay, I'm going to get a job as a doctor. I'm going to make $150,000 a year. I realize I'm going to have $250,000 worth of student loan debt, but hey, you gotta spend money to make money, right? And then as a doctor, they're working 60 plus hours a week. And then they go, okay, I've got the financial status or stage that I want, but they're working on weekends and can't go to church or small group during the week. They're stressed out like crazy because they're not able to sleep on any kind of schedule. They're intellectually great. They could save somebody's life. They have the knowledge to do that. But, their spouse or their kids never see them, and they're pulling away. And their social is just the, nurses and the other physicians and doctors in their wing of the hospital. Okay, so you got what you wanted in your career and your financial. You got 2 out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What about the rest? Was getting the career and the financial stage that I want, was that actually worth sacrificing these other areas? That's a big, giant open loop. And man, as a student, as somebody that's 10, 11, 10's probably pretty young, but 12, 13, 14, 15, especially if you're 16, 17, 18, about to enter the adult world, if you can know your guardrails, if you can know your boundaries, your bumpers for that right now, man, there's not going to be much stopping you. Like, if you have your guardrails in place now and you have that problem solved, God's going to do some amazing stuff with you. Okay? So, enough on that. Open loop number 2, centralized versus decentralized. Okay? I'll try to speed through this section just a little bit here for us. And sorry, I was just making sure this is recording. I hope it's recording. That would really stink. Okay, I think it's recording. So, it's got the stop recording on there, so I think it's recording, but the timer stopped working. Okay, open loop number 2. Okay, centralized versus decentralized. I talked about if you take $1 and deposit it in the bank, how many dollars does your bank get? I taught the students about what's called fractional reserve. That for every dollar we deposit as a consumer into a bank and as a retail customer into a bank, they can utilize that up to 10 to 20 times in some cases. Okay? So it's a fractional reserve system. The bank does not have to have enough assets. They don't have enough collateral in the bank to actually give out all the loans that they're giving. Okay? It's a big open loop. You can research it. The Creature from Jekyll Island. There's a children's version of that book. There's an adult version that's 200 something pages. We're taking off the gold standard in the Bretton Woods Act 54 off the top of my head. Anyways, that's in the book. You can read about it. Fiat money is a medium of exchange, but it's currently a piece of paper. Okay, it's a piece of paper that we have right now. And it's backed by the full faith of the United States government. What is that worth to you? I don't know. I know what it's worth to me, but I can't tell you what it's worth to you. But the word fiat actually means fake. It's actually fake money because it's not worth $1. It's not backed by an asset. It's backed by the petrodollar is what it's actually called these days. It's backed by petroleum, which then you begin to ask yourself questions like, if our dollar is backed by petroleum, is it important for the United States to seek out petroleum reserves? Where do the petroleum reserves mostly exist? What nations are we usually at conflict with? Interesting questions to ask, okay? And seek out the answers for. Again, I'm opening loops for you. You have a responsibility. You agreed to continue watching. You have a responsibility to seek that out, okay? Now, what are assets? Simply put, assets are things that are things and stuff that put money into your pocket. What's the opposite of an asset? A liability. Something that takes money out of your pocket, okay? So, in investing, we look to accumulate and acquire assets. That's what we do because it puts money into our wallets, okay? Now, we can do that in a centralized fashion. We can have a retirement account, a 401k, a SEP20, IRA, Roth, traditional. There's all sorts of things, right? A 520 plan to help my student save for college, blah, 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 right? That's all centralized stuff, okay? Or I could take control of my money and get higher returns, take less risk, have more options, not be dictated to how I deploy the money that hasn't been entrusted to me. And this is something that I did not really touch upon in the class. Just honestly, it kind of skipped my mind and I ran out of time a little bit. But when I say your money, I believe, again, everybody's a steward. So this is God's money that he's entrusted to us. He's loaned it to us to deploy and to use and to multiply. Okay, that's in the Bible. That's biblical. So would you rather to defer control of that which God has entrusted you to a centralized entity when in today's world an alternative exists? I can't answer that for you. I believe that is a binary question, but in large part it's preferential. I believe it's a yes or a no question, but It may not be for you, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree on this. I'm just trying to open loops and to cause you to think about some stuff, okay? Open loop number 3. Open loop number 3. Virginia satire stated, most people prefer the misery of most people prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty. What does that mean? Most people would rather stay stuck where they are and not get what they want out of life, even if it means misery, because it provides certainty. That's what that means. Whereas somebody like myself, I'm okay with a little bit of misery. I'm okay with a little bit of uncertainty because I know it's going to move me closer to what I want more efficiently, more optimally in my wheel of life. Most often this manifests itself in a couple of ways, okay? When people prefer to stay stuck in the certainty of misery versus the misery of uncertainty, they focus on rich versus wealth. They focus on money, more money, instead of, am I the person that I want to be across these spectrums? That's usually how it manifests itself. In the trading world, Mrs. Abner has a financial background, and in I'm going to get the phrase wrong, just a financial background, okay, in her education and so forth. I was an active trader in the options equity markets for a number of years, loved it. It wasn't a career, it was just a hobby, something I loved that I can make money at. And so it's a difference between somebody that has a trading mindset, how much money can I make today, make as much as I can today in a short amount of time with the least amount of risk, versus investing mindset, which is accumulating assets over time, okay? So another way that this often is manifested of people preferring certainty of misery versus the misery of uncertainty is, think of a gambler, okay? Or somebody that plays poker, right? On TV, you see the World Poker Tours on ESPN or whatever, right? Are they a gambler? They're playing the hand and the money that's on the table, the money that's in the pot? Or are they playing the cards that are in the deck and the people around the table? Okay, these three, wealth, investing, and playing the cards that are in the deck and the people around the table, that is taking a little more risk and being okay with uncertainty, but knowing that it's going to move you closer to what you want. So this is a pretty deep loop, I'm not going to lie. Like, it took me a long time to really roll this around and think about it. So if you don't get it, that's totally cool. It's no harm, no foul. I'm just opening loops. I'm just giving you stuff to think about. Okay, if you want to look up that quote, again, it was Virginia satire. Most people prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty. Open loop number 4. So if I've got riches and I've got gambling and I've got trading versus wealth and investing and playing the cards that are in the deck and the people around the table, I should begin to shift my mindset from a status of more to what is my solvable problem? What problem am I trying to solve? What am I trying to achieve? What do I actually want my life to look like? What do I want with that? Well, I can put dollar figure and I can put time to it. I know that if I want to drive a certain part of a certain type of car, I know if I want to live in a certain part of the world or the city or the town I'm in, neighborhood, if I want to have however many V-Bucks that I want to have, that we started with that example with the students, so I can play Fortnite for however long I want. Well, we got to stop saying, oh, I just want more V-Bucks, or I want a nicer car, or I want a nicer home, or I want to eat better quality food. We got to stop talking in terms of more, and we got to actually make it an equation that can be solved. Because more, there's too many variables. Whereas a solvable problem, I can actually isolate the variables and say, yes, I really, really want this. And we had some good conversation actually at the beginning of the class when we were talking about rich versus wealth with the students. So we have to begin to shift our mindset and our thought process, okay? And when we do that, we begin to go from a state of not if and we move into a state of when. It's no longer if, but now it's when. So then we begin to ask, okay, well, how do I make things inevitable? How do we engineer it? How do we put as much asymmetry to the upside? How do we put time and randomness on our side? Okay. So this might be going over your head. I dive deeper into all of this stuff in this document. Okay. I mentioned this document at the beginning. You can get access to this if you go to kingdomtreasury.org right here, kingdomtreasury.org, and this gold button that you see here. Okay. Learn how to engineer wealth for Christ's kingdom. Click that gold button. You'll enter your name and email in there, and then you'll get sent immediately this link to this Google Doc, and you can access it. Okay. So I talk a lot about that stuff in there, getting clear on your solvable problem. Okay. So that investor mindset, solvable problem mindset. How do I get all that I want, all that God has for me in this life while making the impact he has for me on this earth? How do I do that? The way I do it is I have to get real. I have to get real with myself. I have to get clarity. I have to gain clarity and actually define what it is I want. Okay? Now, you're young, right? If you're a parent, maybe you're not so young, but as a student, you're young. Okay? This is going to change over time. Even as an adult, it's going to change over time, because what's going to happen is you're going to get really close to that thing you want. Maybe it's a nice car. Maybe it's a new house. Maybe it's a family vacation. Maybe it's a certain amount of money you want to donate to a particular charity or ministry or church or whatever. And you're going to get there and you're going to get really close to it, and you're going to go, do I really want that? What if I wanted more? I was going to donate $1 million. Why couldn't I donate $10 million? Right? So then it's easy to slip back into that more mindset instead of sticking to our solvable problem. And it's okay. The solvable problem is going to adjust because we're going to grow as humans, right? Like maybe when I created my solvable problem, I was 16 in high school and I didn't have a wife or a husband and a child. Hopefully you don't. Maybe you do. But 5 years from now, you might have a family. And your friends, maybe all your friends went off to different areas of the world for different colleges, or maybe you're now in the mission field. Your social life is going to look different. There's no way for you to really know that, because why? Well, time and randomness, right? Things happen. Life happens. God moves. He moves us. He puts us in different situations, gives us different opportunities. But the first step is I have to define what it is I want. I have to define what I believe God has for me. Okay? Most people do not take the time to gain that clarity. They don't have any vision beyond more and just really paying their bills. Sure, there are wishes, but those rarely get anyone anywhere. Okay? Have big dreams, have big goals, don't have wishes. Okay? So, why don't people do this? I'm going to show you the tools here in just a second that we started to touch upon in the class. Why don't people do this? Why don't they define what they want? They get stuck chasing more. It's easy to chase more. I don't have to do the work to chase more. I just go after more. I just reach this thing and I go, yeah, I'm happy, I'm content, but I want more. Right? It's too easy. It's a default mode. People don't want to do the work. So like right now, as a young student, as a teenager, as a young adult, as a young Christian, as a parent of young adults and young Christians, like shift your thinking right now. Change it from, I just want more. I want more revenue in my business. I want more clients. Really, do you? Is more revenue in your business and more clients, is that going to give you the family you want? Is that going to put your physical health where it needs to be? I don't know. Maybe it is for you. I can't answer that for you. But unless you do the work, you can't do it, right? So you got to define what you want. That's the step. I already covered that, right? Is that the same one? Huh. Look at that. I got a duplicate slide. I don't know what's up with that. Okay, moving on. So, investor mindset, solvable problem constraints. Yes, I want more clients. Okay, how many clients? I want 100 clients, or I want 1,000 clients, or I want 5 clients, or whatever, right? Whatever that number is. customers, clients, you can replace that. I want to make X number of dollars in a career, in a job, etc. Okay, well, we want to add constraints. How do I get that which I want? How do I get resilience in my career, my financial, spiritual, physical, intellectual, family, and social? How do I get that with the least amount of effort, the least amount of risk, and the most amount of options? How do I do that? When you can define, clarify what those are, those constraints are for your solvable problem, now we're getting somewhere. Okay? So, that was a big loop. Loop 4. Okay? I'm going to show you a tool here. I'm going to keep going, and then I'll show you the tools. Okay? So, open loop number 5. DeFi, Decentralized Finance. DeFi is short for Decentralized Finance. Cryptocurrency in parentheses there. Okay? So, most people think when they hear the term cryptocurrency, they think of Bitcoin, Ethereum. Maybe they think of Solana. Maybe they think of NFTs, Bored Ape Yacht Club, CryptoPunks. Maybe recently in the news you heard of stable coins and the UST, Terra Luna, UST, as a stable coin from the Terra Luna network, that losing its peg because of some, this is a little bit speculation because nobody has the full answer, but what appears to be is that there was manipulation of that particular market on the chain and how they pegged, it's algorithmically pegged instead of having assets, collateral that backs it, right? We talked about it earlier. The bank can take your dollar and use it 10 times legally. Already, that's essentially what was happening with UST because of the algorithm. Somebody figured out, oh, if I do this over here with Bitcoin, because that's how it's collateralized, UST is collateralized, and if I take out a loan on that, and then if I do this other thing over here and this other thing over here, I can actually super leverage, hyper leverage my position. Well, that's all fine and dandy until somebody sells out from under you, etc., blah, 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 right? So that's a brief speculative summary of what has happened recently with that, okay? And Mrs. Bamande asked about the 1929 stock market crash. I talked very briefly about that in earlier in the class recording, so you can feel free to go watch that. So cryptocurrency, what you need to understand is cryptocurrency is just one thing that resides on what's called the blockchain. Okay? This should be a huge open loop for you. You should be like, hey, what in the world is the blockchain? I should probably go Google that. Okay? I should probably watch some videos about it. What is cryptocurrency? It's not just Bitcoin and not just Ethereum. How do I make money with cryptocurrency? It's not just buying Bitcoin low and selling Bitcoin high. It's not just taking out a loan against your Bitcoin assets. Is 5% yield all I can truly get with Bitcoin in a lending protocol? Or am I able to get more? I don't know. Those are all questions you should ask. Okay? The loop, I'm opening up loops for you to go and explore this on your own. Okay? Blockchain, the beauty of the blockchain is it's fully transparent. It's public and verifiable. At the same time, it's anonymous. It's anonymous. It's beautiful. There's privacy built in. The blockchain is the foundation. It's what cryptocurrency ultimately rides on top of, okay? There are other uses for the blockchain besides cryptocurrency. For provenance, okay? Rolex, the maker of luxury fine jewelry watches, okay? They recently announced an NFT, a non-fungible token that is going to be the provenance to prove the authenticity of a Rolex watch whenever you go to buy and sell it, okay? Real estate. Students, your parents maybe own a home. Maybe they rent a home, okay? Apartment, whatever the case may be. Maybe they have multiple. They have vacation rentals, etc. Okay, well, real estate can utilize the blockchain through NFTs, through fractional ownership. Parents, how cool would it be? You're going to probably hate me for this. How cool would it be if when your student graduates, you're like, hey, I want to give you an asset. I'm not giving you my whole home. Here's an NFT that represents Here's an NFT that represents a tenth stake in in this home, or 50%, or whatever. It can be whatever you want it to be, right? Like real estate is going to be utilizing blockchain. It already is. Game assets. Those of you that love Fortnite and Minecraft, and there's so many other games. I'm a former addicted gamer, so I could probably the ones I would list but not be in your time era. But you understand that there's assets, right? What if right now you can buy skins in Fortnite, right? What if that skin was portable? What if you could take that skin and put it on a character in a different game? Well, you have an asset now that you own. Okay? What if I could take that and resell it? Ooh, it's now an asset, right? What if I could play to earn? What if I could make money playing a video game? Every high school male's most high school male students' dream job, right? Play video games. At least my 10-year-old. He wants to be in the NBA or, make money playing video games. Okay? Well, there are video games right now that you can get paid to play. In fact, I have friends that have teams of people in other countries playing a video game for him, and then he takes the profits from that and pays them as a business, as his employees, as his team members, and they are in third world countries and second world countries in many respects, and they are literally revolutionizing their family tree financially because they can make money playing a video game because of the blockchain. It's amazing. It's amazing. I have real estate here. I said digital real estate. So digital real estate, you heard this thing called the metaverse, right? Facebook rebranded to Meta, and or not rebranded, but they renamed their parent company to Meta. They have the Oculus goggles that you play in the metaverse. Digital real estate. I have a friend that owns a comedy club in the digital real estate world. Okay, so like not only do we have physical real estate, we have digital real estate. Okay. Point 2. I'll be honest with you. I typed a point 2. I don't remember what point 2 was. I don't have any idea. I don't remember. It's not there. So let's move on. Point 3. What if you could be the bank? This is what I was talking about at the beginning. What if instead of Bank of America, Wells Fargo, your local community bank, credit union providing the liquidity for a loan, or really what's happening again, you providing the dollar and them just pretending there's 10 other dollars and actually loaning that out? What if you could be the bank? Well, there's a way to do that with decentralized finance. Okay? It starts with, though, your solvable problem. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. Solvable problem. Okay, I have 2 spreadsheets here that you can gain access to. Again, these are linked to inside of this document. So you get this document. You also get this right here. Just, make a copy of it so it's on your Google Drive, okay? Called a life vision worksheet. Some peers of mine call it a dream worksheet. Over here on the left, there's a current life. You can build out your current life. Parents, you can do this. Students, you can do this. Okay, this is not my life. This is not necessarily my desired life. I just kind of put some random stuff in there. Okay, line item it out, right? We're going to gain clarity. We're going to get clear on what my current life is. How much is that costing me? What is the life that I want, my desired life? How much is that going to cost me a month, a year? Okay? Again, in class, we started messing with the V-Bucks example. I'm just going to delete that because it didn't really go where I wanted to in the time I had left in the class. Okay? But that desired life. And then I can look and say, we talked about assets, right? Assets put money in my pocket. If I had an asset base of $7.8 million of US fiat value in assets at 10% interest, which is basically what you get on average over time in the stock market, the S&P 500, I would need $7.8 million earning 10% in order to live my current desired life. Again, you fill this in. It's not necessarily my desired life. This assumes, that whomever's filling this out wants to give 10% to charity a month, 10% into asset accumulation, 10% into savings. Maybe they want $250,000 for a house down payment. Then they're going to need, a house payment for $4,300 a month, whatever. Again, just fill this in. If you're a student doing this, you're not going to have all that stuff right now. That's why it may just be go to college and not have to work a job. Okay, well, I want to bring in $3,000 or $2,000 or $1,000 a month in college so that I don't have to have a job or I don't have to take out student loans. Great. That's the desired life you want for this time span that you have, okay? You may not need $7 million to do that. Okay? So 10%. Well, what if I took a little, what if I was able to get a little bit higher rate of return? 20%. What if I were able to get a little bit higher? Our base case right here, our base case is built upon 70% APY. Okay? And the base case is our guard BUSD liquidity pair. Okay? I talk about this in detail in my document over here. I'm not going to go to it here, but you can see here's a decentralized exchange. How legit is this, mom and dad? $393 million worth of liquidity on just one decentralized exchange. There's over $1 trillion. I think it's $1.8 trillion right now in the cryptocurrency markets. Okay? It's a legit thing. Bitcoin has been around for 12 years. It's here to stay. It's going to be around. Okay? It's on the early side of adoption, which I talk about in my document, but it's there. It's here to stay. Okay? So cryptocurrency, guard BUSD, 70%. Discover your solvable problem. Get clarity. The certainty aspect now comes from this 70%. Okay? And then I've got another little tool here that I can say, okay, well, let me actually grab a number, right? Let's say that 1.1, let's go with this 7 million, right? Okay, let's just go with 7,800,000. Is that right? Okay, great. And we start with 10 years just because we do. And let's say $70,000, okay? I got an asset. I need an asset base to live my life that I want. It's going to cost $7.8 million worth of assets, okay? Generating 70% yield a year, okay? So I can either get there by, for 10 years, putting $506 in a month, or I can put $18,000 in and have $546 buffer. Well, that means I can actually put in less because I've put in too much. Let's see what happens if I put in $12,000. $195. What if I put in $8,000? $38. I could put in $8,000 today / over a period of time. Doesn't have to be all at once. And then from then on, only put in $38 more. And in 10 years at 70%, I would have $7.8 million. And I could live the desired life that I've built for myself. Again, not for me, not for you. You got to do it on your own. That's not my real one, etc. Okay? Now, so let's say that I put 8,500 in. 8,700. $8,700, and I'd have a $2 buffer every single month. Okay? Set it and forget it almost. It's the Ronco model for those of you that remember Ron Papil if you're a parent watching this, okay? So, well, what happens if I want it sooner? What if I want it in 8 years? Okay, well, then I got to put in a little bit more money up front, right? Let's say 12,000. Oh, let's say 16,000. Oops. Oh, I got to put in a lot more. Let's say 25,000. Okay, we're getting closer. 28,000. Okay, I got to do more. 35,000. Okay, 35,000, we're close, right? I've got $73 buffer right there if I wanted it in 8 years. Now, what this is showing you is that patience, compound interest, is very, very, very powerful, okay? The longer my time horizon, the less money I have to put in. Some of you are 14 years old, 15, 16, 17, 18. You've got a 20-plus year horizon. What happened if you did 20 years? Well, before we were at 8,700, right? Let's say 4,000. What happens? Still a $200 buffer. 2,500. Still a $145 buffer. 2,000. Still 1,500. Oh, we're getting close. 1,000. Still 800. Oh my gosh. 500. $29 buffer. $450. Oops. $450. Where's my cursor? $450. 26. 250. Oh my word. 125. I've actually never done this. In 20 years, I could have $7.8 million, live the life that I want, starting with $125 a day. today, just not $2,500 a day. I could start with $125 today and have a $7 buffer every single month. Like, that's the power of A, compound interest, B, being clear on what it is you want, because you might have thought, oh, it's going to cost me tens of millions or hundreds of millions, or you might build out this $780,000 life and go, I don't actually need or want all that. Why? Because maybe it means I'm moving away from something over here that I actually want more, right? That I want as a higher priority. I didn't mean to confuse terms there. Okay? We do that through the base case guard BUSD liquidity pair. It's designed as a treasury asset. It's decoupled from the market because it's BUSD, which is a stable coin that is over collateralized. It is not algorithmically pegged like UST, which just got depegged. Yield farming, it utilizes that concept, that strategy, so to speak, is a better word. And we're generating what's called a buying power asset. We can actually get what we want for free. The price of the buying power asset could go to zero, and we can still yield for free that which we want. Okay? I cover all of that in this document right here, right? Okay? A couple students have gone through this already. One of them is in your finance class. Another one is not in your finance class. I've worked with their parents through this. This document is the synthesis. It's the transposition of literally hundreds of hours of video and tens of thousands of words. I've condensed it down, summarized it, clarified it. Some of it's my own intellectual property. Some of it's peers and colleagues' intellectual property. And I identify that in there if you were interested in knowing that, okay? So, open loop number 5 is understanding your solvable problem, understanding the base case, which you're going to have to read another document on, understanding yield farming, which I talk about. Okay, it's getting what you want. Go do the math. Go build your life. Do it. I don't care what your life looks like. You don't have to have a $780,000 life. You could have a $150,000 life. You could have a $5 million life. I don't care. What does God want you to have? What is the life that God wants you to have? And then build in what, like, maybe you just want to be as generous as all you can be. And you're like 10% tithe. No, I want it to be 20% tithe. Cool. Build it. Build it in. Engineer it. And then deploy this beautiful thing that we are on the cusp of here of decentralized finance. Deploy it and see what God does with it. It's absolutely revolutionary. I said at the very, very beginning that I would share a little bit of my story. And this goes back to the literate, numerate, and echolate, okay? When my wife and I were first married, I told her, my vision, my dream was to fly around the world and give away money. Just words, literate. And she was like, that is so like ethereal. That's so pie in the sky. Like, I can't even latch onto that. I don't even know what that means. I don't think anybody else knows what that means. And the reality is, like, at that point in time, I didn't necessarily know exactly what it would mean. Okay. Because I had to percolate on it. I had to literate on it. I had to expand vocabulary around it. I had to look and put numbers to it. And then I had to think about it. I said, okay, well then what? If I'm flying around the world giving away money, how much money am I giving away? Who am I giving it to? What does that actually, am I flying private? Am I flying Delta? Am I flying first class? Am I flying coach? Am I on, a little 2-seater, like holding on for dear life? Well, like, what am I doing? I had to echolate on that, right? Well, here we are, arguably 10 years later, and decentralized finance. Okay, God, would this get me that vision? So my question to you, open loop number 6, what if decentralized finance, I have a typo, what if it could revolutionize my family's financial tree and at the same time build Christ's kingdom here on earth like never before? What if we could build a base case for small missionaries and organizations and projects so that they didn't have to spend their time on furlough and sabbatical going after chasing donations, but they can just spend their time in the field doing that which they love to do, that God has called them to do, because it's paid for, because they've got a base of assets that are yielding them year after year, month after month, day after day, second after second on the blockchain. What would that look like? Oh, that's the birth of kingdomtreasury.org. So I don't really have anything to sell you guys. Like I told you at the beginning, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't play one on TV. I'd encourage you, as your final open loop, to click on the gold button. Go to kingdomtreasury.org, click the gold button. You're going to get a pop-up. Fill out your name and email. If you're a student, do this with your parents' permission. Parents, if you have a student, do it with them. Do it for yourselves. I've already got I've got a family that's doing this, a mother, son, and father, and I've got a father and son that is doing this from Valor. I've already helped them through this. Okay? There is an opportunity to join a private Discord that I'm right now building. In fact, one of the Valor students is helping me do that. I'm very, very grateful to him for doing that. In there, I'm going to have step-by-step how to get fiat onboarded into cryptocurrency, what to do. We're going to have a community of like-minded Christians, okay, that we're building and growing together, that we're learning how to become the steward, the person, the human being that we need to be so that God can fully use us here financially on this earth. We're going to support other ministries, just like I talked about. We're going to help them establish their own base cases. If they aren't in a position to do that, we will establish it for them. Okay? And I want to help you establish the base case for yourself and your family, okay? Because I fully believe this is a point in history. God has placed us here at this point in time with an amazing, amazing, amazing opportunity. And you got to have a little bit of vision to see it. I get it. I get it. There's like a lot of 6 open loops I created for you here today. That's enough to fill the next 6 to 9 months, 12 months for you. Okay? I get it. Totally get it. Don't do it alone. Join along Kingdom Treasury. There's a small fee to get inside the Discord that I'm creating. The main reason I have that, honestly, is to accelerate funding the base case for the ministries. Okay, that's why. I don't see any of that money. I have my own life designed and my own base case going with multiple geese, and you'll read about that if you choose to. Okay? So, kingdomtreasury.org, go click the big gold button, download the document, schedule a time to meet with me. Okay? That's where we're at. Q&A, that's what you're going to have to get on my calendar. Okay? Cheers, you guys. I hope this was of value to you. Again, we are in an amazing point in time. I truly believe God has put us here at this point in time for right now. You students, God has put you here right now at this point in time. This is just one small sliver of what God wants to do in your life. Just one small sliver. If you could take care of your career and financial needs and be giving like nobody else before you in your family, you've eliminated 3, 4, 5 of the items that you have to focus on. You've created freedom of time and freedom of money through decentralized finance. Okay, guys? Cheers. I can talk forever. I'm out. Bye-bye.